Stannic National Rally Championship entered the home straight with the Stannic Fleet Management Rally, an event loaded with innovation and a world first for the sport. Innovation number one was a route that stuck to major metropolitan areas in Gauteng, with the event starting at Innisfree Park, slap bang in the middle of Sandton. Also of significance was the first appearance this season of the legendary Sarel van der Merwe and Enzo Kun in two new Daewoo Lanos factory entries. Supervan wasn't that optimistic about their chances.
I don't think we're in the rally at this point in time. You know, there's just too much work to be done to the car score and too many things to be sorted out. So really for us, it could be just to get to the finish and maybe fix as many things on the way as we can, or change as many things as we can.
Enzo, it's been a long way. What have you been doing all this time?
Trying a lot of other things, but there's no substitute. It's good to be back, good to have a car again, but I think as Sarel said, that we're seeing this as a development run more than a rally. We don't expect to be too competitive, and but the car needs a lot of work, so I think from next event on we can start watching the front runners.
An interesting situation at the top of the championship, with just 1 point separating six-time former champions Serge Damso and Vito Bonafide and reigning champions Jan Habach and Douglas Judd. Chat van der Walt and Cindy Harding were still in contention, with just 5 points separating Group N leaders Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen and Hannes Grobler and Dave McGregor. The factory-entered VW Golf of Habach and Judd was the first car to roll off the start ramp at Innisfree Park, with Damso and Bonafide second on the road and giving the new Castrol Toyota kit car its first national championship outing. Innisfree Park is flanked by the Ben Schoeman Highway and Grayston Drive in the heart of Sandton, with a natural amphitheatre offering good vantage points for the spectators. First into the special stage, South African champions Jan Habach and Doug Judd.
Well, now I've had a look at the stages, and they're quite interesting. But one has to be very careful. You know, there's very little to gain on these stages and a lot to lose. You know, there's lots of places where you can really do a lot of damage to the car. So our strategy will be to have a very smooth and clean first day and not worry too much about the position, and then when the rally starts tomorrow, then we'll go flat out.
Next up, Damso and Bonafide with a new car and the championship position, a pressure situation for the Castrol Toyota combination.
I'm not a great fan for it. I know that rallying needs it, but I still miss the good old border mountain roads. I mean, I think this is one of the best roads we've got in the country. It's a hell of a good challenge for drivers in it. So, but for rallying, I think is good.
Damso and Bonafide got off to a good start by sharing the first special stage win with Sarel van der Merwe and Martin Botha in the Daewoo Lanos. Supervan showed that he's lost none of the skill that took him to 11 South African championships, with Enzo Kun and Guy Hodgson in the sister car also quickly into the groove and only 2 seconds slower. Up against the factory teams in the Premier Class A8 with the Randburg driver Paolo Piazzomuso and Cape navigator Nick Haddon in the Sasol Ford Escort. After a disappointing season, Piazzomuso and Haddon were desperate for a win. The Sasol Ford Escort was one of the first of the new International Group A 2-litre kit cars to be utilised in the South African Championship, with Piazzomuso and Haddon winning the controversial final event of last season. They had an early hiccup with the route schedule and were 6 seconds off the pace. Also desperate for a good result on the Stannic Fleet Management Rally were Italians Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley in the team Total Toyota Conquest. Lawrence and Paisley are having their first season in Class A8, and after 3 non-finishes in the last 4 events, the Italians needed a boost in confidence. The AA Kyalami Grand Prix circuit provided the setting for Special Stage 2, with crews having to complete 3 laps in the opposite direction to that utilised for circuit racing at the sprawling Midrand facility. Right way round or wrong way round, it made no difference to Sarel van der Merwe, who edged out Jan Habach by a second to give the Daewoo Lanos 2 Special Stage wins straight from the box. After 5 class wins in a row this season in the GNT Technologies VW Golf, Class A7 leaders and championship contenders Chat van der Walt and Cindy Harding were looking to consolidate.
I think we found a few extra horsepower, and so we're happy. We look forward to the event, and I normally like the task, so I look forward to the task section today.
Also no stranger to Kyalami is former South African rally and off-road champion Hannes Grobler, who's also had plenty of circuit racing experience. Partnered by Dave McGregor in the Bridgestone Nissan Sentra, the Hartbeespoort Dam garage owner was quickly stamping his authority on Class N3 in the Group N category for standard cars. Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz in the Dunair Toyota Conquest had taken the early lead in Class A6, with Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper, the pace setters in the Group N2 category. Cape Crew, Jean-Pierre Damseau and Pierre Aris were chasing after Fecken and Lukowitz in Class A6, with the Tonys, Radiators, Toyota Corolla of Diffie Moreira and Donny Duval, an early contender in Class N2. Also involved in the Class N2 battle were veteran Skalk Berger and Thilo van Vestenhagen in the Godrich Toyota Conquest. A possible problem for Renzo Kuhn?
No, we just had, I think we had a bit of water in the brake system, so it was boiling up, but nothing serious. So just sorting out the car so we can have a good rally tomorrow.
The sprawling Girotech vehicle test facility to the west of Pretoria is one of the most modern complexes of its kind in the world. Girotech's vast system of test roads were utilised for 2 special stages on the Stannic Fleet Management Rally and provided for their share of drama. After the Santon and AA Kyalami stages, only 1 second separated reigning champions Jan Habak and Douglas Judd in the Works VW Golf and the Castrol Toyota Conquest of Serge Damseau and Vito Bonafide. The 6-time champions were still feeling their way in the new car and dropped 5 seconds to Habak and Judd. The big drama at Girotech was reserved for Sarel van der Merwe and Martin Botha and saw the demise of the early rally leaders. Supervan and Botha were motoring along without a care in the world, but all that came to a sudden halt. A deep water splash within sight of the end of the stage brought about their downfall, with the Daewoo Lana socking water into the motor. Water in the innards of the internal combustion engine is guaranteed to throw a spanner in the works, and Van der Merwe and Botha weren't going anywhere in a hurry. Behind them, the second Daewoo Lanas of Enzo Kuhn and Guy Hodgson was in far better shape. A blistering special stage saw Kuhn and Hodgson the only competitors to break 8 minutes, and with the demise of teammates Van der Merwe and Botha, the second Daewoo Lanas moved into the lead. With Supervan and Botha looking on, Kuhn and Hodgson sailed through the water splash without any problems. Paulo Piazzamusso and Nick Haddon also had a good stage and posted the 3rd fastest time behind Kuhn and Hodgson and the Habak Judd VW Golf. The Sasol Ford Escort also had no problems with the water splash, with Van der Merwe busy booking a flight home to Port Elizabeth, leaving co-driver Martin Botha to mop up. With making it to the finish high on their list of priorities, Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley were not pushing that hard in the early stages in the Team Total Toyota Conquest. They were running at the back of Class A8, while Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz were edging away from Jean-Pierre Damseau and Pierre Aris in Class A6. Hannes Grobler and Dave McGregor were doing the same in the Group N category in the Bridgestone Nissan Sentra, with the pair looking for their 4th win this season and a return to the top of the Group N championship table. Pretoria crew Barry Hrobelaar and Mike Burrows were falling behind Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding in Class A7, and while Guy Hodgson caught up on some paperwork, Sarel van der Merwe explained what happened at the water splash and then left for the airport to catch his flight home.
Water splash was just too deep and it sucked the whole engine full of water, and that's it. And I probably went through there too slowly. You know, the guys who went flat through there made it. Enzo's car, he's got the same car and he made it through, so yeah, for sure.
The curtain came down on day 1 of the Stannic Fleet Management Rally at the giant National Expo Centre at Nasrec and created a little world rally history. For the first time on a national championship rally, a special stage was run indoors. Utilising Nasrec's huge Hall 5 and surrounding parking areas, a unique special stage was created with crews thoroughly enjoying something completely different. The tight and twisty special stage and the slippery concrete surface placed a premium on car control, with the less powerful cars having an edge in traction. This led to some hugely competitive times throughout the field, with only 2 of the 41 cars that went through the stage posting a time of more than 2 minutes. East Rand crew Ben and Isabel van der Westhuizen had quietly crept into the top 10 in their VW Golf, running in Class S20. And with Barry Hrobelaar and Mike Burrows withdrawing from the event after the indoor stage, Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding were well in control of Class A7 and running 6th overall. Jean-Pierre Damseau and Pierre Aris in the Team Total Toyota Conquest were still chasing after Class A6 leaders, that's Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz, with Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley running a solid 5th overall in another Team Total Toyota Conquest. With the cancellation of special stage 4 at Giratec, the Sasol Ford Escort of Paolo Piazzamuso and Nick Haddon had moved into second place behind Enzo Kun and Guy Hodgson. Piazzamuso revels in tight and twisty spectator special stages, but this time around had to be content with the third fastest time, with the extra power of the Sasol Ford Escort at disadvantage on the slippery surface. A big crowd had packed into the hall, with the indoor stage providing for plenty of fun and entertainment for spectators and crews alike.
We really have ended off on a great note. A lot of colour in the cheeks. We've just been into hall 5 where we put up the quickest time so far, 2 minutes 12. Tyres were working fantastic. Honest just got everything right. You know, when you sit in the co-driver's seat, you can feel when the rhythm of the car is right. And I mean, that was just spectacular. It was really great.
The day was far from over for service crews, but there were no reasons for complaint from the Sasol Ford Escort team.
Yeah, we opted for a longer gear ratio for the racetracks, and with the consequence of that, it was difficult to get off the line, but I learned how to dunk the clutch, and we won the last 2 stages, so we're happy for the team.
In the lead at the end of day 1, the new Daewoo Lanos in the hands of Enzo Kun and Guy Hodgson, but with only 15 seconds separating the first 4 cars, the event was delicately poised. At the front of the Group N field, the Bridgestone Nissan pair of Hannes Hrobler and Dave McGregor. The first leg of day 2 of the Stannic Fleet Management Rally took competitors from AA Kyalami to the East Rand and provided a contrast to day 1. From all tar or cement stages, the route was now run predominantly on gravel roads. Overnight leader Enzo Kun was a little surprised to find himself leading the rally in the new Daewoo Lanos.
Yeah, you know, satisfying, but as I say, we've been having to drive very hard to stay on the pace. I think the whole pace of South African national rallying has stepped up one notch, and that was quite evident from the start. We had a bit of problems in the first 2 stages with fuel pressure, and then we picked up to the pace. You know, I'm happy to be in the front, but I'm not that relaxed because we're having to try very hard, and then we're also still developing the car, so we're changing things all the time. And this was the first time I'd ever driven the car on gravel, for instance, so it's all a new experience to me, but I'm enjoying it to be back.
The opening special stage of the day at AA Kyalami was a lucrative one for Paolo Piazzamuso and Nick Haddon in the Sasol Ford Escort. A clean run saw them pick up 36 seconds on Enzo Kun and Guy Hodgson and moved the pair into the lead for the first time. Bringing rallying to the people is the motto of the Stannic National Rally Championship, and big crowds were following the event. The enthusiasts were loving every minute of it, but the AA Kyalami stage saw a number of competitors run into problems with the route guide. South African champions Jan Habach and Douglas Judd were one of the top crews to lose time. With the VW Golf pair just 1 point behind championship leaders Serge Damso and Vito Bonafide before the start of the rally, it was important for them to finish ahead of the Castrol Toyota pair. Damso and Bonafide also wrong-slotted at AA Kyalami, but were 14 seconds quicker through the stage than Habach and Judd. The championship leaders dropped 26 seconds to Piazzamuso and Haddon, and the position at the top of the leaderboard was rapidly changing. Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley also had a good stage in the team total Toyota Conquest, and third fastest time saw the Italians make up time on the crews ahead of them at the overnight halt. For Piazzamuso and Haddon and the Sasol Ford Escort team, the day had started off on a highly promising note.
We've just taken 30 seconds off Enzo here. He wrong slotted. That puts us into first overall. I'm hoping to maintain a podium today. For Sasol and Ford, I think and the team, we really need a podium finish.
Out in the Millie Fields on the East Rand, conditions were difficult. It was freezing cold, with high winds and huge amounts of dust, with competitors now into the high-speed sections of the route. Jan Habach and Douglas Judd needed to get a move on in the factory VW Golf, but Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz were doing very nicely, thank you, at the front of Class A6 in the Dunair Toyota Conquest. The pair had a comfortable lead over Jean-Pierre Damso, son of Serge, and Pierre Aris, with the Cape crew seemingly content to concentrate on a top 10 finish rather than get involved in a chase with Fecken and Lukowitz. Rapidly working their way through the field were the experienced husband and wife team of Ben and Isabel van der Westhuizen in a VW Golf running at the head of Class S20. This was home ground for the East Rand pair, who currently lead the Stannic Northern Regions Championship by a healthy margin. Hannes Hrobler and Dave McGregor were now starting to dominate the Group N category, with the Bridgestone Nissan Sentra starting to pull away from Italians Cliff Blackman and Johan Claesson in the team total Nissan Sentra. Blackman and Claesson led the Group N championship by 5 points at the start of the rally, but Hrobler was reveling in the conditions and going like a train. Also losing ground in the Group N battle were Diffie Moreira and Dani de Waal in the Tony's Radiators Toyota Corolla, with the pair later to retire with engine problems. It was windy, it was cold, and it was dusty, but throughout the field, positions were starting to shift and change. Although trailing in the Class A6 battle, Jean-Pierre Damseau was quite happy with progress so far.
Second stage now, I went all right. We weren't very far off everyone else. Surprisingly, we thought we were going to be much slower because of the fast roads. And it's quite, you have to guess your way through these plantations here because there's no actual roads in there. And then it's quite rough in some places as well. But otherwise, so far it's going all right. Just got to keep it together here.
For overnight leaders Enzo Kuhn and Guy Hodgson, special stage 9 produced problems. The pair were battling with suspension and steering problems, and near the end of the stage broke a side shaft. That cost them over a minute and dropped the Daewoo Lanos to 4th place. Rally leaders Paolo Piazzamuso and Nick Haddon were having a clean run in the Sasol Ford Escort, but were to drop 15 seconds to a flying Damseau and Bonafide. On the long straights through the flat milli fields, the Class A8 cars were hitting speeds of around 200 kilometers an hour. With the high winds, dust wasn't a major problem for crews, but there were often unexpected dangers to be experienced on the rough road surfaces. That major bump there temporarily threw Piazzamuso out of his rhythm, with the impact cracking the Sasol Ford Escort's windscreen. There was no further damage, but Piazzamuso and Haddon also dropped 5 seconds to Jan Habak and Douglas Judd, who were in 3rd place behind the Sasol Ford Escort and the Castrol Toyota of Serge Damseau and Vito Bonafide. The champions were pushing as hard as ever, with their first priority to get ahead of Damseau and Bonafide. Like Enzo Kuhn and Guy Hodgson, the Castrol Toyota pair were out in a new car, with Damseau still exploring the limits. With the pace of the rally stepping up a notch or two in the milli fields, Damseau and Bonafide were gradually starting to close in on Piazzamuso and Haddon. Stage 9 was not without its problems for the 6-time champions. The throttle cable on the Toyota Conquest stuck wide open, but Damseau and Bonafide still managed to win the special stage by 10 seconds from Habak and Judd. You won't find this method of steering wheel repair in any Daewoo service manual, with Enzo Kuhn now in a philosophical frame of mind.
I think we'll just treat this day as a development run. You know, we've had a problem, the suspension moving in the first stage, and then we've had just a side shaft break now, also probably because of the suspension flex. You know, so it's just all part of things you need to find when you test. So it's frustrating because I'd like to stay in the front, but I suppose I'll have to forget about that.
The huge marshalling yards at Centrarand provided a backdrop for special stage 11, with Chad van der Walt and the petite Cindy Harding now up to 5th in the GNT Technologies VW Golf and firmly in control of Class A7 after the overnight withdrawal of Barry Hrobler and Mike Burrows. Overall championship runners-up 3 times in 5 years, Van der Walt and Harding are probably the most consistent team currently operating in South Africa and were lying 3rd in the championship going into the Stannic Fleet Management Rally. Van der Walt and Harding were being chased by Class A6 leaders Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz, with young Fecken again showing the form that makes him one of the brightest young stars of the future in South African rallying. Jean-Pierre Damseau and Pierre Aris were still going along steadily in the team total Toyota Conquest, but were continuing to lose ground to the flying Dunair Toyota Conquest. The younger Damseau and Aris were also being caught by Ben and Isabel van der Westhuizen, who were making the most of local knowledge. They were in control of Class S20, although the category does not count towards national championship scoring. The Group N runners often found the going tough in the thick sand, but Hannes Hrobler and Dave McGregor were continuing to dominate the standard car category. The pair were in a solid 8th place overall and gradually building up a substantial lead over Cliff Blackman and Johan Claesson, who were on the fringes of the top 10 in the team total Nissan Sentra. The consistent Craig Trott and Brian Duncan were also on the fringes of the top 10 in the team total Toyota Conquest, running in Class A6, with Bossy Bosman and Steve Hrobler having a good run in an aging Nissan that was running 2nd to the Van der Westhuizens in Class S20. Also moving up the field were Skalkberger and Thilo van Vestenhagen in the Godrich Toyota Conquest, with the pair taking over the lead in Class N2 from Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper, who had run into problems. There were problems too for Yanni Habak and Doug Judd in the factory VW Golf.
We're quite happy with our performance up until the last stage, but we get a bit of a niggling problem with the fuel pumps, and we've now discovered that there was a loose earth wire. But obviously we found that out only when we were in the stage, so we lost about a minute and a half.
The last 5 dirt special stages on Leg 2 of the second day of the Stannic Fleet Management Rally were run in an area bordered by the N12 to Witbank and Nigel, and were loaded with more drama. Enzo Kuhn and Guy Hodgson were first on the road, but 4th overall in a Daewoo Lanos that was holding together despite the series of mechanical niggles that had hampered them throughout the day. Sasol Ford Escort crew Paolo Piazzamuso and Nick Haddon were now second to Serge Damso and Vito Bonafide, with only seconds separating the two crews. Jan Habak and Douglas Judd were down in 3rd place, but still pushing hard, while behind them, rally and championship leaders Serge Damso and Vito Bonafide were looking to take control despite cracking the oil sump on Special Stage 13. Then, it all started to fall apart for the Castrol Toyota pair when they hit a cow at speed in Special Stage 14. Further back, Class N2 frontrunners Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper were battling with suspension problems after hitting a railway line at high speed. That threw matters out of kilter for the Italians, who were gradually dropping down the field. By contrast, off-road champion Cliff Barker and Hein Lattergan were making up places in the big Pennzoil Land Rover, which had not missed a beat. This was the maiden outing for the Land Rover with its new BMW M3 motor, and proved to be very satisfying for Barker. And while he and Lattergan were merrily trucking on, there was frantic activity in the Castrol Toyota team at the service area at the end of Stage 14.
Yeah, unfortunately, towards the end of the stage, there were some cows going across the road.
In the stage?
In the stage, and we saw the first one go across, and the next one just popped out at the bush there, and we just hit it flat out.
The unfortunate Damso and Bonafide were forced to take a lateness penalty while repairs were carried out, and that put Paolo Piazzamuso and Nick Haddon back into the lead. It also moved Jan Habak and Doug Judd up to 2nd place, and when the Castrol Toyota finally expired on Special Stage 16 with loss of oil pressure, the reigning champions were assured of moving into the lead in this year's championship if they made it to the finish. Hergen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz also moved up a slot in the Dunair Toyota Conquest and were now 4th and leading Class A6. Behind them, Ben and Isabel van der Westhuizen had Class S20 in the bag and were now 5th in a tremendous performance and starting to put pressure on Fecken and Lukowitz. There was also a tale of woe for Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding. Broken side shafts in successive stages dropped them into the 20s, and they'd lost the Class A7 lead to John Bruin and Terry Porter in an Opel Cadet Superboss. Hannah Schrobler and Dave McGregor were now around 4 minutes clear of Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen in the Group N category, with another top 10 finish on the cards for the Bridgestone Nissan Sentra crew. Skalkberger and Thilo van Vestenhagen in the Godrich Toyota Conquest were well clear of Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper in Class N2, and down in Class N1, Pretoria crew Rodney Fasaki and Chris Olsen had taken over the lead after the Nissan Sentra in the hands of Wiley Harrington and Neil Faree succumbed to an engine problem. Back at the Expo Centre at Nasrec, 2 novel special stages were set up to wrap up the Stannic Fleet Management Rally. The first of these was a super special stage with 2 cars competing against each other on a mirror image course. To make life a little more interesting, the stage was run in reverse order, with the slower cars going out ahead of the quicker vehicles, which gave many of the normally anonymous older S20 entries their opportunity to shine. It all made for some highly interesting motoring with some desperately close battles taking place. Once again, the slippery surface placed a premium on car control. The crowd that packed the spectator areas loved every minute of it, with the super special stage another innovation that made the Stannic Fleet Management Rally an event that was just a little out of the ordinary. When the quicker cars started to appear on the course, some highly interesting little private battles started to emerge. Class A6 frontrunners Hergen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz were stacked up against rivals Jean-Pierre Damso and Pierre Aries, with the Dunair crew only 3 seconds away from setting the fastest time of the day. With a lead of nearly 2 minutes, Paolo Piazzamuso and Nick Haddon had victory all wrapped up, but made a bit of a hash of the super special and dropped 18 seconds. The last act of the rally moved indoors to Hall 5 with a Dash for Cash special stage with a prize of R1,000 to the winners of each class. This produced some terrific performances with the big Barker Latterhan Pennzoil Land Rover and the Problem McGregor Bridgestone Nissan Sentra star attractions. Ben and Isabel van der Westhuizen were also among the class winners, as were Chart van der Vold and Cindy Harding, who hung on to maintain a 100% finish record this season, albeit with a 23rd place overall in this event. Fastest time of the day went to the factory VW pair of Jan Habak and Doug Judd, who also had the satisfaction of moving to the top of this year's championship. A comfortable first victory of the season for Paolo Piazzamuso and Nick Hatton, and a creditable third first time out for Enzo Kuhn and Guy Hodgson. Good performances too from Fecken and Lukowitz, the Van der Westhuizens, and Hannes Hrobler and Dave McGregor, who moved back into the lead in the Group N Championship. An unexpected Class A7 win for Bruin and Porter in the Opel Kadett, but an overall victory was a massive boost for the Sasol Ford team.
Well, I'm delighted for Sasol Ford, the team. We really had a slump in the middle of the year. Come back like this, we're really happy.
The traditional bubbly for Piazzamuso and Hatton, with celebrations for the more senior Group N winners, Hrobler and McGregor, taking on a slightly more subdued look. For more information, visit the website at www.stannicrally.co.za.